You ever have a moment where something inside you just switches? Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet. That was the day my own daughter looked at me and said, "You either do what my husband says, or you leave." And you know what? I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I smiled. Yeah, I smiled. Because for the first time in years, I saw everything clearly. And once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. I had just walked in from the store. Plastic grocery bags cutting into my fingers. Milk. Bread. Eggs. The cheap cereal her husband liked. Beer too. The one he always asked for but never paid for. The house was warm. Afternoon light coming through the curtains. It used to feel like home. Not that day. He was stretched out in my recliner. My recliner. The one my late wife bought me years ago. Feet up. Remote on his stomach. Half a bottle in his hand. Didn't even look at me. Grab me another one while you're up. No please. No respect. Just an order. Something cold slid down my spine. I just walked in, I said. He sighed like I had annoyed him. You're already standing. What's the big deal? The big deal? The big deal was this was my house. But before I could say another word, my daughter walked in. She looked tired. But not confused. Not unsure. She had picked a side. Dad, just get it. It's not worth fighting. Not worth fighting. Funny how respect becomes not worth fighting when it's yours. Then he stood up. Stepped close. Used his size like a weapon. You live in our house. You help out. When I say something, you do it. Our house. I almost laughed. I paid the down payment. I covered the mortgage when they fell short. I paid utilities, insurance, groceries. But sure, our house. Then she said it. You either support him and do what he asks, or you can pack your things and leave. And that was it. That was the moment. Because she thought I'd break. I always broke. I always adjusted. I always swallowed it. I always told myself, she's young. She'll understand one day. But that day? Nah. I was done playing ADM with feelings. All right, I said. He smirked. Thought he won. Good. Now about that beer. I'll pack. His face changed. Her mouth opened slightly. They weren't ready for that answer. See, bullies prepare for tears. They don't prepare for calm. I walked down the hallway slowly. Every step steady. No shaking. No drama. Just quiet. Pulled my old suitcase from the closet. The one I used years ago on a road trip with my wife. It felt heavier than I remembered. Not because of the weight. Because of the memories. I packed light. 3 shirts. 2 pants. Undergarments. My medication. A photo. Not everything. Just enough. Because when you walk away with dignity, you don't need to carry the whole house. Behind me, I could hear whispering. Low. Urgent. They were confused. Trying to figure out how to control something they no longer controlled. When I rolled that suitcase into the living room, they were silent. He avoided eye contact. She looked uncertain. Nobody said sorry. Nobody said stay. So I left. And here's the crazy part. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. And that scared me a little. Because freedom after disrespect feels strange at first. Like stepping outside without a coat in winter. Cold. But clean. The drive to the motel was quiet. 30 minutes of thinking. You know what replayed in my mind? The numbers. College tuition I paid. The wedding I funded when his family couldn't afford it. The mortgage payments I quietly covered. The insurance on their cars. 5 years of support. 5 years of telling myself it was love. Maybe it was. But love without respect? That's just slow self-destruction. And I had been self-destructing politely. The motel room was small. Clean. Basic. Temporary. I sat on the edge of the bed and just breathed. No one ordering me. No tension in the air. No walking on eggshells. Just silence. Different kind of silence. But peaceful. I opened my laptop. Logged into my bank. And that's when the real shift began. Because leaving physically? That was easy. Detaching financially? That was the move. And once I started making those calls, things were about to change. Big time. Because they thought I left defeated. They had no idea. I had just begun. And trust me, the next week, they were blowing up my phone. And that was just the start. I stood there staring at that closed door like it might open again. Like someone would run back and say, "Wait, I didn't mean it." But now, silence just sat there with me. Cold. Still. Heavy. You ever feel your heart beating but everything else feels numb? That was me. Just breathing, but not really living in that moment. And trust me, this wasn't even the worst part yet. I grabbed my jacket slowly. Didn't rush. Didn't argue. Didn't beg. Because something inside me was already tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving myself. Tired of shrinking just to keep pace. And that tiredness? It hits different. I walked outside and the air felt sharp. Not because it was cold. Because reality had teeth. And it bit hard. I sat in my car but didn't start it. Just stared at the steering wheel. Hands shaking a little. Not from fear. From disbelief. How did it get here? How did love turn into conditions? How did respect turn into do what he says or leave? Tell me that. I used to carry that kid on my shoulders. Used to work double shifts just so they wouldn't miss out. Used to skip meals so school trips could happen. And now I was being told I was optional. Crazy how life flips the script. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. One of those wow, this is messed up laughs. Because sometimes pain is so loud it turns into sarcasm. And that's wild. I finally started the engine. Didn't know where I was going. Didn't care either. Just drove. Streetlights blurred past me. My thoughts louder than the radio. Memories playing like some cheap movie in my head. And every memory hurt just a little more. I remembered birthdays. Remembered scraped knees. Remembered late-night talks about dreams. "Dad, I'll always take care of you." Yeah, that line echoed hard. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Kids grow up. And sometimes, they grow away. Not slowly. Suddenly. I pulled into a random parking lot. Turned the car off again. Silence round 2. I checked my phone. No messages. No "are you okay?" Nothing. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about one sentence. This was about years of little changes. Little signs I ignored. Little disrespect I brushed off. Because I didn't want drama. See, I kept telling myself. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it. It'll get better. I kept lying to myself to keep the family picture clean. And that's on me. Sometimes we protect others so much. We forget to protect ourselves. And that lesson. Expensive. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. And I asked myself one simple question. When did I become the outsider? Was it when I stopped agreeing with everything? Was it when I refused to be quiet? Or was it when someone new walked in and I stopped being the main voice? Yeah, that one stung. Don't get me wrong. I never wanted control. Just respect. Basic stuff. Nothing fancy. But somehow, asking for respect started being called attitude. Standing firm became being difficult. And silence became being mature. Make it make sense. I realized something sitting in that car. I had been slowly shrinking for years. Laughing less. Talking less. Showing up less. Because every time I did, it felt like I was in the way. And that messes with your head. For real. I drove to my small place. Not fancy. Not big. But it was mine. When I walked in, it was quiet. But this quiet felt different. Not rejection quiet. Peaceful quiet. And that's when it hit again. Peace doesn't beg. Peace doesn't shout. Peace doesn't threaten. Peace just exists. I sat down on the couch. Didn't turn the lights on right away. Just let the darkness sit with me. Sometimes you need that. I replayed that sentence again. Do what he says, or leave. It wasn't even about him. It was about her choosing sides. And that's the part that cut deep. You don't expect your own blood to put conditions on you. You expect arguments. You expect disagreements, but not eviction. I thought about calling, about explaining, about fixing it. But then I asked myself something heavy. Why am I always the one fixing things? Why am I always the one apologizing first? Why am I always the one swallowing pride? And the silence answered back. Because I was scared to lose them. That's the truth. I tolerated things out of fear. And fear is a terrible landlord. That night I didn't sleep much. Just stared at the ceiling. Listening to my own breathing. Feeling older than my age. The next morning, something shifted. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just steady. I made coffee. Sat by the window. And decided one thing. I'm done begging to belong. That decision didn't erase the pain. Didn't magically heal anything. But it gave me a backbone again. And that felt new. Days passed. No call. No apology. No comeback. And each silent day told me more than words ever could. I started noticing something strange. I wasn't as anxious anymore. No walking on eggshells. No measuring every sentence. No rehearsing conversations in my head. Freedom is weird when you didn't know you were trapped. It feels scary at first. Then it feels powerful. I began doing small things for myself. Morning walks. Cooking what I liked. Calling old friends I had drifted from. And guess what? Life didn't collapse. One evening, my phone finally buzzed. My heart jumped. I won't lie. I looked at the screen. A simple message. We need to talk. No apology. No softness. Just business. Old me would have rushed. New me. I took my time. I replied. About what? Short. Calm. Clear. The typing bubble popped up. Disappeared. Came back. Left again. Funny how people struggle to speak when they don't control the tone anymore. The message finally came. Things got heated. You know how it is. Yeah. I knew exactly how it was. And that was the problem. I didn't respond right away. I let that sentence sit. Because sometimes silence is the only power you have left. And trust me, this conversation, it was about to change everything. But I wasn't going back the same way. Not this time. Because once you taste self-respect again, you can't taste it. And what happened next? Let's just say, it proved who really valued me. And who only valued control. I stared at that message for a long minute. We need to talk. 4 simple words. But heavy. Real heavy. You ever notice how people say that when they don't want to say, I messed up? Yeah. That vibe. I didn't reply for hours. Not to play games. Not to punish anyone. But because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't desperate. That's a strange feeling, by the way. When you're no longer chasing approval. When you're not scared of losing something that already treated you like it was optional. It hits different. Later that night, the phone rang. Not a message. A call. I looked at the screen. My chest tightened. But I answered. Hello. Silence for 2 seconds. You could hear breathing on the other end. Then a voice. Careful. Controlled. You've been distant. I almost laughed. Distant? After being told to leave? The irony was wild. I was told to leave, I said calmly. No yelling. No drama. Just facts. Another pause. That's not what was meant. There it was. The rewrite attempt. I leaned back in my chair. So what was meant? You ever ask a simple question and it makes someone uncomfortable? That happened. Well, you know how things get when emotions run high. No, I didn't know. Because I had never told anyone to leave my life when I was emotional. Anger shows you. It doesn't excuse you. I was told to either obey or get out, I said. Slow. Clear. That's not confusion. That's a choice. The breathing got heavier. You're making this bigger than it is. And that's when I felt it. That shift again. That backbone. That calm strength. No, I said quietly. I'm finally seeing it clearly. Silence. And here's the thing about silence. It makes truth louder. The voice on the other end changed tone. Less control. More irritation. So what? You're just done. Over one argument. One argument. That line right there. That told me everything. Because it wasn't one argument. It was years of small dismissals. Small jokes at my expense. Small moments of feeling unwanted. And that night was just the explosion. You think this is about one moment? I asked. You really think that? Another pause. I don't know what you want from me. That question hit me hard. Because I realized. I had been asking myself that same thing for years. What do I want? Respect. Not control. Not authority. Just respect. I want to not feel like a guest in my own family, I said. Soft. Honest. No anger. And guess what? There was no quick answer for that. Because you can fake politeness. You can fake smiles. But you can't fake genuine respect when it's missing. The conversation didn't explode. It didn't turn into shouting. It just faded. We'll talk later, came the final words. And the line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, waiting for something inside me to break again. But it didn't. Instead, something settled. Peace. Not the fake peace where you pretend everything's okay. Real peace. The kind that comes when you stop arguing with reality. Days passed again. This time, I didn't expect a call. Didn't check my phone every hour. Didn't replay conversations. I started building routines. Little things. Morning walks turned into longer walks. Coffee tasted better when it wasn't rushed. Music sounded clearer when your head isn't full of tension. I reconnected with parts of myself I forgot existed. I used to sketch. Stopped years ago. Said I didn't have time. Truth. I didn't have space. I picked up a pencil one evening. Just doodled nonsense. But it felt good. Felt like me. It's funny how when you remove pressure, your personality comes back. But don't get it twisted. The pain didn't disappear. It just stopped controlling me. Then one afternoon, I got another message. This one was different. Can we meet? Not we need to talk. Not defensive. Just meet. I stared at it for a while. Old me would have jumped. New me. I thought about it. Was I ready? Was I strong enough to sit there and not fold? After a long pause, I replied. Public place. Short. Clear. Boundaries. The reply came fast this time. Okay. We met 2 days later. I arrived early. Picked a table near the window. Somewhere open. Somewhere neutral. When they walked in, I felt it. That mix of love and disappointment. It's a weird combo. Makes your chest feel tight. We sat down. Small talk first. Weather. Work. Random nonsense. You ever notice how people avoid the real topic like it's lava? Yeah. That. Finally, I said it. Why did you say it? Straight to it. Eyes dropped for a second. I was frustrated. Frustration again. That word was working overtime. Frustrated enough to remove me. I asked. That landed. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Silence. The truth struggles when it doesn't have backup. Then it came. Soft. Almost defensive. I felt like you didn't respect my marriage. Ah. There it was. The real root. I nodded slowly. I respect your marriage, I said. But respect isn't submission. That sentence changed the air. I won't compete with anyone, I continued. I'm not trying to control anything, but I won't be talked down to either. There was emotion in the eyes now. Confusion. Maybe guilt. I felt caught in the middle, came the quiet reply. And for the first time, I saw it differently. Not as betrayal, but as weakness. Sometimes people hurt you not because they hate you, but because they don't know how to stand firm. Still hurts though. Don't get it twisted. I shouldn't have said that, came the words finally. Simple. Late. But real. I didn't rush to hug. Didn't instantly melt. I just nodded. I'm not asking to control your home, I said. I'm asking not to be disposable. That word hit both of us. Disposable. Because that's how it felt. There were tears now. Quiet ones. Not dramatic. Just heavy. "I don't want to lose you," came the whisper. And that's the moment I had to decide. Go back to old patterns? Or build something healthier? "I'm not lost," I said calmly. "But things have to change." Not a threat. A boundary. And here's the crazy part. For the first time in years, I wasn't scared to walk away. That confidence? It changes how people see you. We didn't fix everything that day. Don't let movies fool you. Healing isn't one conversation. But something shifted. Not control. Not dominance. Balance. Weeks later, things felt different. Conversations had more respect. Less sarcasm. Less tension. I didn't show up as often. And when I did, I wasn't shrinking. And here's what I learned through all of it. Love without respect is fragile. Sacrifice without boundaries is self-destruction. And silence for the sake of peace eventually explodes. I'm not perfect. Never was. But I stopped begging to belong. And guess what? When you stop begging, the people who truly value you step up. The ones who don't, they step back. And that clarity? That's priceless. But hold on. Because the real twist? It didn't come from that conversation. It came months later, when something unexpected forced all of us to see what really mattered. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special about it. I was at home, fixing a loose cabinet hinge. Music playing low in the background. Coffee half cold on the table. Just a normal day. And then my phone rang. When you've lived long enough, you can tell by the ringtone if something's wrong. It just feels different. This one felt heavy. I answered. The voice on the other end wasn't calm this time. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't defensive. It was scared. There's been an accident. And just like that, all the ego, all the pride, all the tension from months ago, gone. Nothing makes you drop grudges faster than fear. What happened? I asked, already grabbing my keys. Car accident. Highway. Emergency room. The words were coming fast, shaky, messy. I didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't replay old arguments. I just drove. You ever notice how in moments like that, the mind goes quiet? No overthinking. No drama. Just focus. The hospital lights were too bright. Hospitals always feel like that. Too clean. Too white. Too real. I walked in and saw familiar faces. Worried. Tired. Eyes red. And when those eyes saw me, something shifted. Not awkward. Not distant. Relieved. Funny how crisis removes pride real quick. I didn't ask who was right. Didn't ask who said what months ago. I just asked, where? Room number. Second floor. The walk down that hallway felt longer than it was. Machines beeping. Footsteps echoing. That hospital smell you can't describe. When I stepped into the room, seeing them there like that? Weak. Connected to wires. Bruised. Yeah, that hit. All those arguments felt stupid. Small. Pointless. Because when someone you love looks fragile, everything else becomes background noise. I stepped closer. For a second, I hesitated. After everything, was I still wanted here? And then weak eyes opened. And the first word out of that mouth? You came. Man, that one cracked something inside me. Of course I came. You think love just disappears because pride got loud? Nah. I'll always come, I said quietly. And I meant that. The room felt different after that. Not tense. Not divided. Just human. I stayed for hours. Answered questions. Talked to doctors. Handled paperwork. No one asked me to. I just did. Because that's who I am. And here's what I realized that night. Respect isn't about who talks louder. It's about who shows up when it matters. Around midnight, I stepped outside for air. The other person involved in all this tension? Yeah. Standing there too. We hadn't really spoken much since that cafe meeting months ago. We stood side by side. Awkward at first. Then came a quiet voice. Thank you for coming. Simple words. No attitude. No edge. I nodded. We are family, I said. And for the first time, that word didn't feel forced. Silence again. Then something unexpected. I was insecure. That confession? Didn't see it coming. I thought you were judging me. I thought you didn't respect me. Honest. Raw. And here's the crazy part. I never hated him. I just refused to be disrespected. I wasn't judging, I said. I just won't shrink. That landed. There was no argument. No defense. Just understanding. Sometimes conflict isn't about hate. It's about fear. Fear of losing influence. Fear of not being enough. Fear of comparison. We talked for a while that night. Not about the past in detail. Just about moving forward. No dramatic apologies. No big speeches. Just maturity. Back inside, I watched over that hospital bed again. And I thought about something heavy. What if I had let pride win months ago? What if I had cut everything off completely? What if I had said, you chose. Live with it. But that's not me. Boundaries don't mean bitterness. And strength doesn't mean cold. By morning, things looked better. Stable. Exhausted but relieved, we all sat in the waiting area. No one arguing. No tension. Just quiet gratitude. That experience did something powerful. It reset the hierarchy. Not in a controlling way, but in a real way. Respect shifted naturally. After the hospital, something changed permanently. When I visited again weeks later, it felt different. No sarcasm. No subtle comments. Conversations included me. Not tolerated me. And the biggest difference? No one told me what to do. I wasn't competing. Wasn't proving. Wasn't demanding. I was just present. And presence? That's powerful. Months turned into more stability. Not perfect. Families are never perfect. But healthier. Now when disagreements happen, they're discussions. Not ultimatums. And here's the part that might surprise you. I forgave that sentence completely. Not because it didn't hurt, but because holding it would have poisoned everything. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's self-protection. One evening, we were all sitting together. Laughter. Food on the table. Normal life. And out of nowhere came this line. I'm glad you didn't walk away. And I smiled. Because here's the truth. I almost did. But walking away and standing firm aren't the same thing. I didn't walk away. I stepped back. There's a difference. Stepping back gave space. Walking away would have burned bridges. And now, there's balance. I'm respected. Not feared. Not obeyed. Respected. And that's all I ever wanted. But let me be real with you. If that apology never came, if that respect never shifted, I would have still chosen myself. That's the real lesson here. Love people. Show up. Forgive when it's real. But never trade your dignity for a seat at a table. Because the moment you accept being disposable, you teach people to treat you that way. And I learned that the hard way. Now when I sit in my chair, coffee in hand, telling this story, I don't feel anger. I feel growth. I feel stronger, calmer, wiser. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most end up teaching you the biggest lesson. And that lesson? Respect yourself first. Always. Because once you do, the world adjusts. And yeah, that quiet shift inside me that day, it never left. And that's how everything changed. Months turned into a year. And if you looked from the outside, you'd say, everything's normal again. Family dinners. Random jokes. Group chats blowing up over nothing. Life moving. But here's what people don't see. When you go through something like that, you don't go back to who you were. You level up. I wasn't the same man who stood at that door months ago, stunned and silent. I was sharper, calmer, grounded, not louder, not controlling, just solid. And people feel that. Respect started showing up in small ways. My opinions weren't brushed off anymore. My words weren't interrupted. My presence wasn't optional. No one announced it. No ceremony. It just shifted. Because once you show people you can walk away, they stop testing, if you will. That's real. One evening, we were all sitting outside. Cool breeze. Sun setting slow. That golden light hitting everything just right. And out of nowhere, the one who once gave me that ultimatum looked at me and said, "You've changed." Not accusing. Not defensive. Just noticing. I smiled. "No," I said. "I stopped tolerating." That landed. Because there's a difference between changing who you are and returning to who you should have been all along. I didn't become colder. I didn't become distant. I became clear. Clear about what I accept. Clear about what I don't. Clear about my worth. And clarity. That scares people at first. But it also commands respect. Then came the moment that sealed everything. A small disagreement happened one night. Nothing major. Just opinions clashing. Old days? That could have spiraled. But this time, voices stayed calm. No ultimatums. No leave then. No power plays. And at one point, someone said, "Let's not disrespect each other." Simple sentence. But that sentence, it never existed before. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. The cycle was broken. Not because I fought harder. Not because I yelled louder. But because I refused to shrink. Sometimes the strongest move isn't attacking. It's standing still and saying, "This is where I stand." And if they love you, they adjust. If they don't, they leave. Either way, you win. Now let me take you back to that night. That door. That sentence. Do what he says, or leave. At the time, it felt like rejection. Now, I see it as ignition. That sentence didn't destroy me. It woke me up. It forced me to ask questions I'd been avoiding. Why am I afraid to lose people who don't value me? Why am I bending where I should be standing? Why am I calling it love when it feels like pressure? And once those questions hit, you can't unhear them. You either evolve, or you stay stuck. I evolved. Not perfectly. Not overnight. But steadily. And here's the epic part. Respect didn't return because I demanded it. It returned because I became willing to live without it. Let that sink in. When people realize you're okay alone, they stop treating you like you're desperate. And desperation? That's what kills dignity. I sit in my chair now sometimes, coffee in hand, window cracked open, breeze coming through. And I think about that version of me sitting in the car that night. Hand shaking. Heart heavy. Feeling disposable. If I could talk to him, I'd say this. They didn't break you. They revealed you. Because strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's steady. It's the man who walks out without slamming the door. It's the man who shows up at the hospital without being asked. It's the man who forgives, but never forgets his worth again. And here's the final truth. Family isn't about control. It's not about obedience. It's not about who has the loudest voice. It's about mutual respect. Without it, love turns into tension. Closeness turns into obligation. But with it, even broken moments become lessons. And now, no one tells me to leave, because they know I can. That's power. Not domination. Not fear. Choice. I choose to stay. I choose to love. I choose to forgive. But I will never again choose to shrink. That chapter closed the day I stopped begging. And the new one? It's built on balance. So if you're listening to this, sitting somewhere feeling like you're being pushed to the edge, hear me clearly. Don't explode. Don't beg. Don't collapse. Stand. Stand so steady that the ground remembers your weight. Because the moment you respect yourself fully, the world has no choice but to adjust. And that's not arrogance. That's awakening. That's growth. That's legacy. And trust me, once you unlock that version of yourself, there's no going back. Not ever. The next story might be the one that changes you. Subscribe and don't miss it.